So you were on The Masked Singer this week. I knew you were the seal the minute you
You
opened your mouth.
did?
Oh yeah. Well, I
What?
mean
How is that?
the clues were somewhat obvious. There was a license, there was a there was the vampire teeth, there was the Spielberg clue, but it was the voice. I've heard you sing multiple times, and I immediately was like, this voice sounds familiar.
Oh
So
man. I didn't
I'm
realize I was such a dead giveaway.
I take this show very, very seriously. But
Oh, you do?
honestly,
Okay.
I was surprised it took you this long to get on the show because in season one they were guessing the peacock was you, and there's probably been other times they've guessed your
Oh
name. And
yeah. No, that's the joke of it is they've actually guessed me every single year as far as I know. There may have been one or two seasons they missed, but I mean literally every time it's on, I know that I'll be getting, calls and texts and tweets and people going, "Oh, come on, just admit it. I know that you're the alien or I know that you're the lizard or I know you're the whatever, and I'm just like, "Oh my God, it's not me." But then I realized after actually doing the show that that kind of ruins it for everybody. And I'm not supposed to say it's not me because then, everybody, but I guess they don't believe me anyway. Because I actually posted something about it on my Twitter. I said, here we go again. Every year people think that it's me. And, all I can say is it's, I'm going to actually have to watch it this time to see why people think it's me.
but I know you eventually went on because you wanted to clear up some misconceptions about you, or that's at least the impression I get. What mi-
Oh no, no, that's not why I went on. I went on just because I thought it would be fun. Really, it's just a bit of a laugh, and I thought the timing was actually appropriate considering the fact that I'm doing my first big arena tour this
I
summer.
know.
And so when they hit me up and they were like, "Hey, what do you think about being on The Masked Singer?" I kind of laughed out loud, and I was like, "That's so funny! Like it's about time, you guys finally caught it." But you know what? At the same time. I'm honored and it's a compliment to me that people have been guessing me for so long because it means that at least I'm in everybody's minds as far as, being a singer or
Yeah.
whatever, rock star, pop star, however you want to look at it. I'm grateful that people have that connection, when they think of me. So that's actually a compliment to me. And then secondly, I think the fact that we finally did it at this time. Like I said, the fact that I'm doing my first arena tour, I thought, okay, well, this is a great commercial right before the tour starts to show everybody what I do on stage for all those people that have never seen me. And hopefully it will help us sell a whole bunch more tickets. And on top of it, we've also just released our VIP tickets so that people can do meet and greets with me after the show. So if you're watching this and you want to come see my first arena tour, not only can you come see the show, but you can come meet me backstage after the show if you go to my website, CoreyFeldman.net, and you buy your VIP tickets today.
That is a great commercial. What I meant by you mentioned misconceptions about people thinking you were a wild child when you never really quite were.
Oh,
But
that's
also,
true.
there's also some misconceptions about your ability to sing, quite frankly, which you proved because you sang as a seal and people didn't know it was you and they liked the voice. So
There you go. Thank
do
you.
you think
Thank
people
you.
have kind of come around? Because I remember like when you were on the Today Show a few years ago, I interviewed you at that time.
We
People
got a lot
were
of crap.
yeah, but I feel like the tides have turned a little bit. You played Riot Fest, you're, going on tour with Limp Bizkit, which is friggin' awesome. Like, do you feel
No,
like
I'm
there's
so grateful. I'm so grateful. Yeah, I listen. I think it just kind of took its time. But let's face it. I don't deny the fact that when I started, I wasn't the greatest singer. So if you go back to footage of me in 1989 or 1990 when I was first getting started, I'm sure I was hitting bad notes. I'm sure you can find those clips if you want to try and lambaste me or whatever. But I'm proud to say, yes, I did sing live. It was not lip synced. It is what it is. It's all what you hear and what you expect, and it's real. So I am grateful to clear that up, and I am grateful that people are getting to hear my real voice. And at the same time, yeah, I guess you make a very good point. I'm also grateful that they're hearing me and being able to say, "Hey, that's a good voice, regardless of who it is." And that I beat out, I guess, a R&B legend. So, if you call it beating, I don't call it beating. It's more like we kind of had fun together, and they
did it
chose to keep me on that week. But that's it.
so to go back to, it must have been a little hard to put yourself out there all this time, when sometimes like you said you did get crap or you were still kind of like learning how to sing in public really since
Right,
1989. What kept
right.
you what kept you going working at the craft even if sometimes it, might have been kind of hard?
Well, listen, you get kicked, you get arrows in the back, you get dirt in your face, you get all of that stuff, and it's part of the territory. I mean, as an artist, if you're going to put yourself out there, you can't expect that you're just going to get a pat on the back every day. You can't expect that everybody's just going to love everything you do. And, so you kind of have to gain some rhino skin, as Tom Petty used to say, to make yourself tough enough to get through living in Hollywood, to get through being an entertainer and an artist, because you are going to constantly be questioned and attacked and ridiculed for what you do. So I think you got to toughen up. I think you got to be pretty brazen about it. But at the same time, I think that the reward is overwhelmingly redeeming when you actually push through your insecurities, when you push through your fears, and you come out on top. So let me be here as an example for all sorts of artists out there who think, oh, I'll never make it. I'm just little old me. Well, guess what? I never gave up on my dream. I pushed for almost 40 years. And, after 30 years, I got my first top 40 hit. It
Yeah.
literally took 30 years to get my first top 40 hit. So it's like, you know what? It takes the time that it takes. But if we're dedicated to our craft and we believe in whatever it is we want to make our reality, we can visualize and make that a reality, whatever it is. It's up to us to create and envision our future. And I believe so strongly in manifestation, and I believe that all of this is due to that.
And that hit you had that you're referring to in 2020 was "You Are Free," which I imagine was
That
it
was
your
actually my third. That was my third top 40 single,
what was the first
actually.
one? What was the
The
first
first
one?
one was Go For It. That's the one
Okay.
I did on the Today Show back in
But
2016.
I'm mistaken. "You Are Free" was your first top 20 hits. That's
That's
the step.
correct.
Okay, that was this.
Yes,
So
yes,
that
yes,
that
yes,
must have
yes.
and that must have felt really good, especially given what that song was about and what motivated that song.
Absolutely. That was a song for Corey Haim, and kind of words that I had always wished that I could have said to him when he was alive. And it was actually the closing song for the film that I made, My Truth, the documentary that I put out that got hacked and all that stuff. But
I remember
fortunately,
that.
at least some people got to see it, and those people who got to see it have said really great things. So I'm grateful for all the fans and the followers out there who have actually, during that time, who took the time to purchase it and watch it the correct way. Now,
Mhm.
of course, there's illegal streams that we pull down all the time, but it was only up for a year, and during that year, it was a very impactful and a powerful year, considering we were all locked at home with COVID.
I mean, given that you've been kinda on the soapbox with the megaphone about this for so long, and that movie Quiet on Set just came out. Is it possible that your documentary could get a wider release now? Like, I feel maybe more people would be open to watching it now.
You're not the first reporter to bring this up today, but I had to take it down for my own safety and for my own security because I was out there fighting this fight alone. I suppose if some major studio or network decided to knock on my door and say, "Hey, can we make you an offer to distribute it, and you're going to be protected and you're going to be taken care of properly, like any other major announced movie or documentary of this nature," then sure, I would consider it. But I definitely wouldn't go it alone again.
Yeah, that I mean, has just in light of Quiet on Set, Me Too stuff that has come up in recent years. Have you I hope you've had moments where people have come up to you privately, even privately, and been like, "You were right. Like, we should have
You know
listened to
what?
you."
They've been saying it to me almost every day since 2020. Really. But that said, that's in private. People don't see that publicly, but privately, people have been saying it every time I'm in public, which is I'm always grateful. It always makes, puts a little lift in my step, or, makes me feel like, okay, there's some redemption or some value to what I've been doing. But that said, it's been mostly a disappointment and mostly disparaging and discouraging. And it's been very hard for me when you invest everything you've got to making a film to expose the truth, and you're kind of laughed out the door and ignored and shut down and stolen from. And I mean, gosh, the profit that they made off that film, probably the very people that did this to us, they made tens of millions, if not $100 million, just sending it around for free and clickbait and selling, X copies of it on, pirating it and distributing it on their own. I mean, it's a disaster what they've done to me. So who knows? Maybe one day there'll be a recut, an uncut version, or there's so much material that we had that we never used anyway. But at this point, I have no plans to
Okay.
distribute it in any way.
In general, though, with the fact that you've been such an you know, you've been so outspoken, you've been such an and you in your music as well with You're Free, but, like, just as an advocate for child stars and what child actors and what's going on, like, you risked a lot of your own career to do this. Like, obviously, you've had great success, but I think you and I have talked before about how you feel like you've lost opportunities. I mean,
Oh,
you've had
absolutely.
to carve your own path.
Right, right. I mean, it's been very difficult. Obviously, choosing that path definitely knocked some opportunities down, knocked away some friends, but they weren't probably real friends in the first place. So you got to look at it that way. You know what? I believe in doing the right thing, no matter what. I'm a soldier for God, and I believe in spreading the word of God, and that's my mission. And helping those who don't have a voice to help themselves. So women, you know, who are abused, children, animals, the environment, whatever cause is calling for help because their voice isn't loud enough on their own, that's where I find myself. And that's where I will continue to find myself because that's the way God made me. I mean, you know, I feel like, yes, it's great that I have these abilities and talents as an artist, but if I'm not using them for good, then what's the point of it all? So I write songs that I think are going to be educational and meaningful for people and have a point to them, have a moral to them. And then I also try to make my speech and my vocalization whenever I'm out there speaking something uplifting and positive and hopefully rewarding as a seedling from all of my vast experiences of pain that I've dealt with in my life.
So no regrets or no honestly any resentment that no one else kind of spoke up when you were speaking up. It seems like you're very positive, but it would be easy to get into a place of being
It,
regretful or
it's
resentful.
not it's not resentful, it's not regretful, it hurts. It hurts. I'll be honest. I do weep at times because of the fact that I was um, abandoned in that way. Like there was nobody that stood with me when the time came. Like I stood up and I was hoping to see others stand alongside me, and it just didn't happen. And maybe it was because of COVID, maybe it was bad timing, or maybe it was the fact that they all wanted to keep themselves away from the danger of exposing themselves, or maybe they just didn't want to ruin their own careers because they saw the way I was being treated. But whatever it is, enough is enough. You know, you can't sit there and say that everybody else deserves justice, but not the two Corys. They don't deserve justice. How is that possible? How is that possible? But you know, whatever. It is what it is. I accept life on life's terms, and right now I've got nothing to complain about because
I
I'm very
know.
grateful. So I don't want to mix it up and try and stir the pot because that's not what I'm pitching here. What I'm pitching is I'm grateful to be on The Masked Singer. I'm grateful to have this huge tour coming up with Limp Bizkit, and
That's
I'm
what
even
I
more grateful to announce today that I have my first mainstream theatrical feature film starring me coming to theaters this fall in 20 years.
so tell me about that. And then I definitely want to ask about the Limp Bizkit tour. I didn't mean to go off on that tangent. I was kind of creating the story arc that you are having. You've had some dark times, but now you're up, you know, it's all the way, you know, nowhere to go but up. So tell me
That's
about the
right.
movie, and then I want to talk about Limp Bizkit.
Okay, so the movie is we're actually announcing this today. It hasn't been discussed yet anywhere except for during these interviews today. So I'm really excited for this to hit the press. But we've just finished making a deal with Alamo Drafthouse, who is going to be releasing this film, which is my greatest work, my finest work as an actor, I believe. Anyway, it's the work I'm most proud of. Whether anybody else agrees with it or not, I'm most proud of it as an actor. It was very, very challenging. The film that I'm speaking of is called The Birthday, and it is a cult classic already, even though it's never been seen by eyes in America, other than those who came to two small screenings at the Lincoln Center, thanks to Mr. Jordan Peele and Ian Cooper. And those two men came to my house for a private screening of the film because I found out I found out Jordan was a fan of mine, and he invited me to the premiere of his film Nope, which was produced by Ian and himself. And they invited me to come to the premiere, and I came and we met, and he was really nice, and we traded numbers. And we were texting each other one day, and I just mentioned that I had this film that I thought, you know, he really should see because I was really proud of the work, and I wanted him to see. If he was a fan of mine, I was like, if you're a fan of mine, you should see this work because it's an important work. And so he came over with Ian, his producing partner, and they watched the film. And after the film was done screening, he said, This is a cinematic masterpiece and it deserves to be seen by the world. And
Wow.
with that, he took it upon himself to set up some screenings of the film at the Met Center in New York, where the Lincoln Center has a screening room or a few screening rooms, and so he put together this entire film series with three or four of my other films, and then this film, and he had two screenings of this film on the final night, and both screenings sold out of the film. And with that, distributors came in and they saw the reaction from the audience. They saw how packed it was. They saw the interest level, and we started getting offers. And lo and behold, a movie that was literally intentionally taken off the map and shut down by whoever the powers that be
Yeah, I was about
were
to ask why it never came out before if it's like such
because
a great
they
film.
because they did not want you seeing how great my work was. Literally, it was an intentional move to keep me off the map. And I can't tell you who. It's the same they that stole my film. It's the same they that, runs the media. I don't know who they is. All I know is that for whatever reason, it was shut down. And I won Best Actor award in Luxembourg. I won awards for the film in Spain at the Sitges Film Festival. It was released only in those two countries, in Spain and in Germany. But for whatever reason, it was locked out. I know for a fact that Quentin Tarantino, Oliver Stone, many of the greatest directors in the world, Richard Donner, they all saw the film. They all called me Guillermo del Toro. They all called me and praised me for my work in the film and said how great it was. Yet it still was never released. And so I just can't even believe this is happening. I'm so beyond grateful that it's finally coming out and the world gets a chance to see it. It's my best work, my favorite work. It's a dark comedy that goes kind of into, it's kind of like if you took David Lynch, Richard Donner, and Steven Spielberg and mashed them all together. That's what Eugenio Mira's work is like. But the director of this film, Eugenio Mira, who's also the writer, is a brilliant, brilliant filmmaker. His previous work includes a film called The Piano, which was with
Yeah.
Elijah Wood and and
Yeah.
and and John Cusack. Great, brilliant movie. Same director. This was his film right before he made that movie. So I am just so excited and thrilled for the whole world to see this movie. I can't wait for it to come out. It will be out in theaters via Alamo Drafthouse this fall. I can't give you an exact date yet. All I can tell you is I'm really excited.
I'm excited for you. I mean, I'm so happy, like, as I was sort of getting at, like, tides of turn, you're getting your flowers and you're doing your big arena tour. Like, I need to know, I didn't have it on my bingo card, you and Limp Bizkit on an arena bill in starting in July. And how did that come about? That's going to be pretty epic.
I think it all came about because of the Playboy Mansion, if you want to break it down.
Okay.
Fred and I met in the 90s at the Playboy Mansion. Like everybody remembers when like Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit were like constantly at the Playboy Mansion and doing like private shows there, and he was hanging with Hef and all that stuff. Well, that happened to also be right at the time that I was doing that. So we met there. And I think we ran into each other at several events, but we traded numbers and we right away he was like, I want to make music with you, I want to work with you, let's do a movie together, let's do music together, let's work together. And so from that moment on we traded numbers. We've always stayed in touch. We've always talked about doing projects together. And many people don't know this, but if you go back to my biggest successful album yet, Angelic to the Core, there's actually a song with Fred Durst on that album called Seamless. And we co-wrote and co-produced it together, and it's a really cool song. It's badass. It really does kick ass. But it's Fred and I with Scotty Page of Pink Floyd fame playing sax throughout the song, and actually co-produced by my dear friend and bandmate Greg Sartiano, who plays guitar for me in my band now. And he was the engineer and the guitar player on the song. I played drums and keyboards on the song. It's a great song. We did it together. We released it, almost 10 years ago.
Wow.
And out of nowhere, literally, I mean, and we've done other stuff. We've stayed friends. He came and did my telethon that I did for autism, and Fred was great and donated time for that. And I've done other stuff with him. I showed up at a Limp Bizkit show and played with Limp Bizkit before at the House of Blues. So we've done stuff together, but this was, out of nowhere kind of. I was at the House of Blues. We were getting ready to do a sold out show in San Diego. and I get a call from my manager, and he's like, "Hey, I don't know if you've heard, but I've got an offer from Fred Durst coming in. They want you to tour with them this summer." And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, "I'm about to go on stage. I'll deal with this later." And and then all of a sudden I get a text from Fred, and Fred's like, "Hey man, so I haven't heard back from you. Are you gonna accept the offer or what?" I'm like, "Bro, I'm about to go on stage. It's a packed house here. It's crazy. Really excited, but I saw just like a glimpse of something come through, and I don't even exactly know what it is yet. So I'm gonna check it out as soon as I get off stage. But either way, I love you and thank you for thinking of me, and I'm flattered." So once I got off stage and I was able to see what it was, I was like through the roof. I was like, "Man, Fred's the man. He
Will we
knows what's
hear
up."
will we hear Seamless on the tour? Like, will you
I don't
duet together?
know.
I would
That's
love
the
that.
I know it's from your lips to Fred's ears. I've been trying to tell him, let's make it happen. But the one thing is, I know we would definitely need a sax player, and I don't think we have a sax player coming, but you never know. Anything's
Tim
possible.
Capello from the Lost Boys. Hire
There
him.
you go. There you
That'd be
go.
amazing. Well, I know I
Let's
need
make it
to let
happen.
you go because you got so much going on, but I do want to ask now that you're sort of reaching like kind of more of a hard rock audience with, I mean, not that you never were before, but like this tour is going to put you out there in another way. How did when you played Riot Fest come about, and how'd that go over? Like, that's not, it's always so hard to play a festival because like it's not necessarily your crowd. Like a lot of people are like kind
Right.
of casual looky loos wandering
Right.
by or
Right,
whatever.
right, right. No, I expected Riot Fest to be a disaster, actually. I was so scared. I was like, oh my God, they're gonna hate it. It's not gonna fit. I don't know what to do. Like people, first of all, I don't even have to worry about it because nobody's gonna show up. So I was mostly embarrassed that there was gonna be like the press of like, hey, there's only 5 people in the audience. What are you gonna do? You look like an idiot. But then when I saw that they were putting me on it 2:30 in the afternoon on a Saturday, I was like, well, that's okay. Nobody expects there to be anybody there at that time anyway. So it's really not going to be even noticeable that it happened. And so when we got to the stage that day, there literally was 5 people in front of the audience, in front of the stage, watching the band that was on before us at the 1:30 slot or whatever it was. I mean, there was nobody there. It was a big, giant, empty field. And I was like, exactly, exactly. This is why I didn't want to do this. Oh my God, how am I going to get through this? Like, I was so upset. Went into my dressing room, all depressed. And then Jameson Newlander flew down from Los Angeles from the Lost Boys, and he comes knocking on my door. And this is about 20 minutes later. And he's like, man, I'm so excited, dude. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm kind of embarrassed, but thanks for coming. But I'm kind of embarrassed that you flew all this way. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, this is going to be a crap show. It's only 20 minutes, and there's nobody there. It's going to be stupid. He's like, oh man, come on, it's going to be great. You're going to have a great time, and I'm really excited for you. This is going to be incredible, dude. Are you kidding? Corey Feldman at Riot Fest. It's incredible. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, buddy. Thanks for the enthusiasm. I appreciate it. And so he goes out of the room, and then like 20 minutes later, my security comes in. He goes, hey, where do you want me to put your guests? And I said, what do you mean? Put them anywhere you want. Just throw them in front of the stage. And he's like, well, where in front of the stage? I said, right in front, as close as possible. He goes, well, how do you expect me to get them there? I said, I don't know. Walk with them and put them there. It's not that hard. He goes, no, I mean, how do you expect me to get through the crowd? And I said, the crowd, there is no crowd. And he says, yeah. And I'm like, what? And he's like, you'll see. And so we walk out like 10 minutes later, and that's when I saw 20,000 people had taken the lawn, literally in
Wow.
half an hour. It went from 0 to 20,000 in the blink of an eye.
And
And I was floored. I was absolutely floored. And then the promoters of Riot Fest, came up to me and congratulated me. And they said, listen, just so you know, we've been doing this for 15 years, and never before in the history of Riot Fest has that stage had that amount of people in front of it.
wow.
Literally, it's never come close. So it was historical. It was the first time they had 20,000 people show up on the small stage in the corner of the festival at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2:30. So we were very grateful everybody showed up.
Do you get the impression when you do shows like that or when you're opening for someone like you will be with Limp Bizkit that some people are kind of, I don't mean this in a mean way, but kind of expecting a train wreck or kind of a joke thing, and then you have this urge, or not urge, but this drive to prove people wrong. Does that fire you up to go, and do you win over the crowds? Like, do you see it in real time of maybe some people who are more kind of expecting something, a novelty act, and then being like, oh, okay, this is
Well,
this is
that's how it was in the beginning. In the beginning, the first I mean, the first 5, 10 years, it wasn't like that because everybody was just into the teen star thing and the fandom thing, and they just went with it, and there was screaming crowds everywhere I went. But then the '90s became more cynical, and during that
Mhm.
cynical phase of the '90s, the mid to late '90s in rock and roll, it became grungy and it became gritty and it became like you got to be cutting edge. And that's when I was playing punk clubs, and they were throwing beer bottles as a compliment. So I kind of got used to all that, like that was just how it was. And then it got to like the early 2000s, and then the whole thing with the Today Show, and then that's when the mocking started. That's when
Mhm.
people started coming in there to laugh at me and point fingers, and I realized that that was part of the resistance against my vocal speaking about predatory abuse. Right,
Maybe,
we're going
yeah.
to try and diminish him, we're going to try and make him seem like he's got no value, because the more we make him look crazy, the more we make him look worthless, the more it increases the odds of nobody believing what he has to say. So that was really the whole goal behind that. And after we got past that, there's also, of course, the people that come in not knowing what the music's going to be. And then you have a fraction of people who come in to mock you because they just want to laugh. So were there people saying that the whole thing was a joke? Of course, there's been people saying the whole thing was a joke. And what I have to say to that is the joke is on you.